Is this thing on? Hello, friends. Welcome to Chickenlandia and welcome to Bawk Tawk, your 100% friendly backyard chickens show. I am your host, Dahlia, aka the president of Chickenlandia. I am a backyard chicken educator that has found peace and joy in the chicken yard, and it is my mission to help you find that too. Okay, everyone, welcome back. I am so happy to be here. Today is episode 1 of season 5. That's right. There are 5 seasons of Bawk Talk. So if you just found me today and you just started listening, you've got many, many episodes to binge on. I record this live on YouTube, and then it gets posted on all the major podcast apps. So there's lots of Bawk Talks for you. Today we're going to answer the age-old question, are my chickens normal? And I know the answer to that question is subjective, but I know there's a lot of new chicken keepers that listen to me and some experienced chicken keepers as well, and they often have this question. And they, maybe they observe some behavior in their flock and they don't know if they should be worried about it or not. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about it. I have a few questions that were sent to me through my website, welcome to chickenlandia.com. So I'm going to answer those, and then I will open up the chat here live on YouTube for your questions. If you want to submit a question to be answered on Bawk Talk, all you have to do is go to welcome-to-chickenlandia.com and go to the contact section, and you will find how to do that. While you're there, you're going to want to join the mailing list, Chickenlandia Nation. It is the greatest chicken mailing list all across the multiverses. Okay, I know that for sure. And when you join, I'll send you a discount for my online course. It's called Chickenlandia's Backyard Chickens 101, a chicken course for everyone. It is a super fun and interactive course. You get direct access to me and my co-instructor, and I'm really proud of it. So go check that out. Okay, so I want to say hello to some of the people that are here in the chat. Eric Johnson is here. Thank you for being here. Bean and Briar, CJ's here, Renee is here, Jay Cree is here. I hope I'm saying that right. Brenda Stewart, Matthew, Peace of My Heart Homestead, and there's the Chickenlandia Presidential Advisor. Yay! Joy is here. I got your message earlier. Lori and Jill. Thank you all so much for being here. It's so great to see some familiar faces. Okay, hold on. Let me get a drink. It's just green tea. All right. So before we get into the listener questions, there's a few things I want to talk to you about, and I want you to consider while we're going through this. I want to talk a little bit about our modern experience as chicken keepers in the Western world and how that affects our relationship with our chickens, and whether or not we're actually able to answer a simple question like, is what my chickens are doing, is that normal, or is something going on with them? And I speak a lot about how the modern way that we learn how to keep chickens is heavily influenced by factory farms, at least in this country and in the Western world. Whether we realize it or not, it is, we are heavily influenced by that industry. And that's not to say that everything that we learn or all the science that's out there that's available to us, I'm not saying that that's bad. I definitely will say factory farming is bad. I'm not an advocate for that kind of farming. But I acknowledge that there's a lot of good information out there, and we've gotten some good ideas from modern farming. It's just the factory setting that I'm really against. But generally, the way in which we are taught to care for chickens, the way that we learn to take care of chickens, it's not the same way that we once cared for them as human beings, okay? Which was more instinctual and it just carried, more of our symbiotic relationship with these amazing birds. It carried that really across thousands of years. So thinking of it that way, we must have been doing something right. And factory farming is so new, that idea of taking care of animals that way. And I don't know if you can even use the word care, but that's a very new way of caring for animals. Okay. So if we are going to go with a more traditional way of keeping chickens, one that isn't influenced as much by modern industrial farming, naturally we're going to be spending more time outside with them. We're going to be connecting with them more, and generally we will be more in tune with them. And that's why I encourage everyone to spend a lot of time with their chickens from chickhood, from when they're babies on to adulthood. I think it's so important to just be with your chickens and observe them. And I really feel like when we do that, we are more able to understand their behaviors and recognize what's normal and what isn't. Okay? Because what might be normal for one chicken and one flock could be, a completely different circumstance in another flock. Because every flock is different. Every flock has its own personality. Every chicken has its own individual personality. But there's also the personality of the flock. Okay? So that's what I want. That's like one of my main goals with Chickenlandia, is just to get people in touch with that, get them outside with their chickens, and get them to connect with nature that way. And it's so good for you. It's good for your chickens. It's good for you. All that stuff. I hope that this is making sense. Okay. Am I making sense? I hope so. So the other thing I want you to remember as we go through, and specifically the first question that I'm going to answer, is how industrial farming has actually changed the biology of modern chickens, because that's going to be an important thing to remember, and how that might be something that we want to factor in when we're asking ourselves, whether or not what's going on with our flock is normal. Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to move on to the first question. This is from Valcal. I think sometimes I'm like, is that their name, or like what's going on there? But the question, I believe, is from Valcal. And they said, my family has had chickens for about 5 years now. Yesterday, one of my favorite girls suddenly died with no symptoms. She was very healthy and laid 2 eggs that day, that can happen. Okay. It's not very common. I've had people say, no, that's impossible. What happens is they probably lay the egg very early in the morning, and then the second egg later in that, much later that day. But I've seen it in my own flock, so I know that it can happen. Okay, she was in her sunspot and simply passed. So I guess she was taking a dust bath and she passed. We had moved our coop 3 weeks ago because our run was getting too muddy, and the late snowstorm here in Clark County was, sorry, I read that wrong. We had moved our coop 3 weeks ago because our run was getting too muddy with a late snowstorm here in Clark County. She was one of 3 full-grown chickens. She was 2.5 years old. Do you have any ideas? We are worried for our other 2. Plus, we have 3 new pullets we are introducing. We want to make sure they are safe. Thank you for all the work you do. You are welcome, Valcal. And the first thing I want to say is, first of all, I want to be sure that you know that you're not alone in this experience. I get a lot of messages from people who are confused and devastated because, their chicken, and it's usually their favorite chicken because it's like always the favorite. They were pecking and scratching and running for their treats in the morning and just having a grand old time, totally themselves, seemed completely fine. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, their chicken has just dropped dead. And it's just like, it just all of a sudden happened. You go out there, the chicken is dead. They were fine earlier, and it's awful. No one can ever get used to that, and I'm just sorry that that was your experience. Um, and the next thing I want to say is that it is almost, I mean, I don't know for sure what happened, but I've seen this so many times that I can say with a fair amount of confidence that it's very probably nothing that you did, and there was probably nothing that you could have done to prevent it. The fact is that modern production breeds, they are not bred for resilience. They are bred to lay as many eggs as a chicken can possibly lay in their first year of life. And that's because most production breeds in the world, and in fact, most chickens in the world, they're not allowed to live past their first year of life and maybe their first 2 years, because that is their most profitable year. They're producing the most amount of eggs during that time. So most production, chickens in the world are living in factory conditions. Without getting super detailed about it, because it's a long, medical explanation, my guess of what likely happened to your chicken is that, it didn't have anything to do with a contagious disease or anything that you need to worry about in regards to the rest of your flock. Now, that's a guess because I can't diagnose them. But I really feel like it probably had more to do with just overactive ovaries and a hormonal, I guess you could call it like an imbalance, that is a result of the way that she has been bred. And, like I said, of course, I'm not a vet. This is a guess, so please take that with a grain of salt. But unfortunately for production breeds, I would put this experience within the category of normal. Now, I don't want people to get super worried that their chickens are just going to drop dead, but it is a fact that it happens more with these production breeds, and it's very likely that there's nothing that you can do. It's just the way that they're bred. Okay? So sadly, yes, I would put that in, it's pretty common. All right? And I hope that helps. I hope the rest of your flock is doing well. I know you sent that message a long time ago. It takes me a long time to go through these messages to figure out what I'm going to answer on Bawk Talk, but I hope everything is going well. And if you can, send me an update, okay? Okay, so the next question is from Jamie. And Jamie says, we picked up our first 6 babies about a month ago. 4 Australorps and 2 buff Brahmas. They're all completely nuts. It's good that you can recognize that. Awareness. Chicken awareness. They're all completely nuts, generally in great and entirely endearing ways. They're all pretty social and uniformly noisy, except for our larger Brahma. She watches us and kind of follows us, but won't let us touch her. Most of her awake time she spends chirping almost nonstop. I don't mind it, but she seems to agitate the other babies. I've looked her up and down, and she looks super healthy. For that matter, she's our largest child by an obvious measure. The first day home, she had pasty butt, and I'm worried we traumatized her with the dryer. I doubt it. I'm largely just wondering if it's normal for a chick now and then to be working to perfect her singing voice to such a degree. Thank you so much for your time and all you do. Okay, that was funny. Thank you so much, Jamie, for sending that. So, one of the questions I'm asked over and over again is, which breed of chicken is the quietest? And I always answer this question the same way. There are some breeds that are generally considered quiet, but every chicken has an individual personality. So no matter what breed you get, and Brahmas are supposed to be a quieter breed, just so you know, you might get one that loves to sing the song of its people. It's just, it happens. Okay. So never think that it's a guarantee you will have a quiet flock just because you got, certain breeds that somebody told you that breed was quiet. I will tell people like, yes, this breed is generally considered quiet, but that is not a guarantee. You can always get one that is talkative. It sounds to me like your little one is normal, especially since you observe her being quite healthy, but that she's just talkative. And maybe she has a little bit of human in her that that there's some chickens that you just look in their little face and it's like there's a person looking back at you and they're trying to tell you something. But all that being said, and it sounds like your chicks are young. I'm sure they're grown now because you sent this question a couple months ago. But I just want to say, just in case, if you have baby chicks and you have one that seems to be chirping more, I do want you to make sure that they have all their needs met and that they aren't too cold or too hot, or they aren't lonely, or maybe they're injured in some way, because it could be that they're making a distress call. Like they're calling their mother because they're distressed. Or if they seem fine, it could be that they just want to talk to you, but you will know more how to recognize the difference the more time you spend with your flock. And that's why I started out today, I started this show out really by saying how important that process is, to be spending as much time with your flock as possible, because you will begin to understand what their behaviors mean, and you'll begin to really learn as much as you can about the individual personalities of your chicken. And when that changes, you will know that something's going on. Okay? So I hope that was helpful to you, Jamie. Thank you for the laugh. That was funny and cute. Okay, this is my next listener question. It is from Valerie. Hello. My neighbors had a chicken that would jump my fence to eat. You must have had all the good stuff at your... Sometimes the grass is greener. She did it so often that I simply asked my neighbors if I could have her, and they said yes. So sounds like you got a chicken of fate, Valerie. She chose you, so that's pretty awesome. She became part of the flock quite quickly. Recently, I noticed she began separating herself from the flock. When she would come near to the main feeding area, the rooster would shoo her away, or she would attack the hens and the rooster would stop the fights. She would squawk and get very puffy when I came close. We have her separated now, and she doesn't seem to be hurt, have any fleas or any injuries. So, first question, would you have any idea as far as why this behavior is happening? Second question, how long should I consider separating her? And my third question, since I don't know if she's sick, can I still use her eggs? Thank you so much. Okay. So, the first question of why is this happening? It's hard to tell, since I'd need to have more of a little back and forth chat with you about it, but it does sound like what is happening to your chicken of fate is that she is broody, or she is thinking about going broody. And that means that she has the instinct to want to hatch out and raise baby chicks, and that instinct is like alive in her in that moment when she's behaving that way. The reason I think that is because chickens that are broody will separate themselves from the flock, or they'll go to a nesting box, or they'll go to whatever nesting area is, wherever they've laid a clutch of eggs in the past, or maybe there's a clutch of eggs there now. They will sit on the eggs and stay there all day. And they will only come out a few times to eat, to drink, and to poop and have a dust bath. Okay. And when they do come out, it's not uncommon for them to be super cranky, to be puffy, and to generally cause a disturbance that is annoying to the other birds. And so especially the rooster, whoever's highest in the pecking order, will try and correct that. Okay. And they're just kind of like these little hormonal dinosaurs. And that's super annoying. Like a moody velociraptor. That is annoying. Okay. If you want to break her broodiness, which means to stop her, kind of snap her out of that instinct, you could take her on a long car ride or two. That's like the Chickenlandia way of doing it. If she doesn't mind being in the car. If she will like freak out in the car, then don't do that. That usually works. Or what you could do is you could put her in a crate or a cage or whatever with no bedding in it. Maybe just like a puppy pad or something, or like an old towel. But you don't want to put a lot of bedding in there because you don't want her to like start nesting in there and really activate that or keep that instinct going. You don't want that. You want to like halt that instinct. So, of course, make sure she has food, she has water wherever she is. It's predator proof and the temperature is okay and all that stuff. That will likely break her broodiness because it will kind of cool her down and it'll keep her from nesting. And she should only need that for a few days. And hopefully she'll snap out of it. Sometimes it's really hard to snap them out of it. Like there are chickens that just no matter what you do, they will not snap out of it unless they get baby chicks and they can raise them. And, they get eggs and they can hatch them out and raise them. So there's that. And regarding your last question, I do want to make it very clear that I'm saying that she sounds broody, but I don't have any way of knowing that for sure. So I can't guarantee whether or not she's sick. Like it is possible that she's got something going on. My best guess is that she's broody because it really sounds like that. But, whether or not she's sick or she's broody, she will likely not be laying eggs. A chicken that is not well is usually not laying. And a chicken that is broody is not going to be laying. So, but, regardless, if she was confirmed as being sick, I would not eat the eggs. I would not eat her eggs if I knew that she was sick. Okay? But like I said, it just, it really does sound to me like she's just broody. And I would call that normal. That is within the range of normal behavior. And I hope this helps. Okay. All right. So I'm about to open up the chat for questions, but first I need to make 2 announcements because I just went on a 3-week vacation. And if I'm not careful, I will not be able to afford to get my chickens their treats. And then they will have a mutiny against me. Okay. It will be a rebellion for sure. So I need to let you know that, as always, this podcast was brought to you by the folks at My Favorite Chicken. My Favorite Chicken is my favorite online shop to get my feed. I get my non-GMO, organic, and socially responsible scratch and peck feed. I get my supplies. I get my fun chicken stuff, like my chicken apron and my chicken bag and all that fun stuff. You can go to the link in the show notes. It is My Favorite Chicken. This podcast is also brought to you by the folks at Small Pet Select. Small Pet Select is a small local company to me, but they have an online store that I know that you are just going to love. Right now, I always use their organic pine shavings. I was using hemp for a little while, but I will go back and forth because I love their organic pine shavings. I also love their pet greens. Those are like sprouts that just grow out of a little bag, super fun. And I always use their flaked oyster shell because for some reason my chickens love it. So you can check out these and their other chicken products as well as other fun products for little fuzzy animals, little fuzzy pets, by clicking the link in the show notes, and there is a coupon for you. All right. Now I am going to open up the chat for questions. If you could please post your question in all caps so that I can see it, because these progressive lenses are already working overtime. How many people do we have here today? It looks like a lot. Okay. If you have a question, please post it in all caps. All right. First question is from Caroline. Will chickens lay eggs in extreme heat? Sorry, I'm a new chicken keeper. You don't have to be sorry. There are no dumb chicken questions. That is actually a good question because what happens is yes, they will often take a break when the heat, the heat gets really extreme. Like in a heat wave, they will very often stop laying just because they're a little bit stressed out, and that's just the way their bodies are. They're working on staying cool. They're not working on laying eggs. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much if your egg production has dropped a lot right now. If it's very hot where you are, they're likely taking a break with that. And then, the bummer is sometimes they'll take a break because it's too hot, and then they'll go right into their molt because the molt happens usually late summer, early fall. And so if you get an extended time with less eggs, that is likely why. Okay, so definitely not a bad question. A very good question. Susie. Okay, let's look and see. Addie asks, cedar chips. That's just the question. Cedar chips. So my guess is, Addie, that you're asking, should I use cedar chips? Oh boy. Well, I do know some old time farmers that use cedar chips, and they swear by them, and they use them inside their coop, and they swear by them. The reason that they like them is because those that type of shaving is very good at keeping critters away. So external parasites, it's really good at keeping that away. There is some thought that it is actually not good for the chicken's respiratory systems. I've also seen that for like small animals, like hamsters and gerbils and rats and stuff, that you shouldn't use cedar in their cage. So, to be safe, I don't use cedar just because that's how I was taught, honestly. I have seen some studies on that. So I don't use it inside the coop. Outside the coop with good ventilation, I would not worry about it. I really wouldn't. Okay. There's some educators that might not agree with me, but I think when they're outside, there's good ventilation. They're not just like constantly breathing that in, breathing those oils in or those fumes in. I wouldn't worry about it at all. So outside, in my opinion, is fine. Inside the coop, in my opinion, I just wouldn't chance it. There's so many other great alternatives, so why chance it? Okay. Renee says, oh, my sapphire. Renee says, my sapphire gem laid 2 eggs in a day last week. It can happen. It can happen. So Jennifer asks, can pullets seem broody just before they start to lay? Yeah, possibly not where they're like sitting on eggs, but what they will do, you will sometimes see this behavior where it's kind of like they don't really know, like they know something's happening to their body, but they don't completely know what it is. So they might pace a lot, and they might to be very talkative, kind of squawk a lot, go into the nesting box, sit for a little while, come back out, pace around, squawk a little bit, and it's like that the hormones are kind of like coming alive in them, but they're not quite there yet where they're able to lay that egg. So yeah, I have seen that behavior, and I've seen people like get worried about it. Like, I don't know what's going on with my chicken. They might sing the egg song even though they haven't laid the egg. They're like practicing. And if you don't know, the egg song is bok bok bagok. That's the egg song. So I think the short answer to that question is yes, sort of. Like they definitely have a hormonal activity going on that can be noticeable. But with a broody chicken, they're going to be puffed up, and they'll be like in the nesting box. And just kind of running around like they're crazy. Like when they come out, they just act like super cranky and crazy. So it's really hard to miss that. It's like, okay, that chicken is broody. Now I know what that means. So I hope that answers your question. Um so Danielle says my hen has an eye infection from the rooster pecking her eye. How long will this be to heal? We have separated her and tried. There's a antibiotic that she tried for weeks. We've used compress, salt rinse. Can you help? Well, Danielle, it sounds like if it hasn't healed, she's got some kind of infection going on. One thing I wonder is if she has some kind of I don't know if you saw the rooster actually peck the eye, if you know that it was like a physical injury, and it's taking this long to heal, then that is an indicator that there's a stubborn infection going on. If you didn't see that and it was kind of a guess, like I think the rooster pecked her eye, then it's possible she has a respiratory thing going on. Unfortunately, I can't, I don't know how long it will take. I would, even if I saw her, I'm not a licensed veterinarian, so I don't have the expertise to answer that question of how long it would take to get better. I imagine it depends on the seriousness of the situation. If it's been weeks and it hasn't healed, to me, that is serious. One thing that I like to use in chickens' eyes, and it doesn't hurt them, and you can get it at the health food store, is a colloidal silver spray. So you want just the colloidal silver, and you can spray it like directly on their face. And if you get some, like just like there's a spray that you can get, or you can get just like the liquid, and you can even put some of that in their water. I would look up the dosage for parrots and go with that. Then that is to me, that's like my go-to kind of natural antibiotic that when I can't get my hands on an actual antibiotic from a veterinarian. So that would be what I would do. Since it's been weeks, I don't know. It does sound like a serious situation, and I wish that I had more to give you on that, but that's really the best I got, and I hope that she gets better. I really do. Bean and Briar says, "Chicken peeps, I need all of your positive vibes for my best chicken of all time, Briar. She's been at the vet 3 times in the past 2 months. Please send her some positive energy. I love her so much." Okay, Chickenlandia peeps. Send Briar some positive energy. Okay? I hope your chicken gets better. I'm sorry you're having trouble. Definitely that's a loved chicken. And that's the most important thing. All right. Okay, sorry I'm going through this a little bit slow. Okay, so Urban Chicken Mama and the Rooted Heart Garden says, "Love you, Dahlia." Oh, thank you. I love you too. Thank you. Do you use diatomaceous earth mixed into the chicken's food? I don't. Not because I'm like against it, not because I think it's going to kill your chickens. I don't think that diatomaceous earth is used as an anti-caking agent in not only, chicken feed, it can also be in like human food, like processed food. So I don't think it will necessarily hurt them. I do have one study that I read that showed a positive effect against internal parasites using diatomaceous earth. I think that there needs to be more studies. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of money in studying that, so there's not a ton of studies out there. I guess, the short answer to that question is no, I don't use it. I use other things to control the parasite load in my flock, that I feel more more comfortable with, but it does. I'm certainly not against using diatomaceous earth. I know tons of people that have used it in their feed and they swear by it. So, so yeah, that's the answer is I don't, but I'm not against it. Hold on. I'm going to choke here. It is raining so hard. I don't know if you can hear it, but like I'm looking out my window right here and it's raining so hard and we need rain so bad here. So I don't know if you can hear it. Brett and Jenny Hagen asks, what's with the little squat they do when you go to pick them up? That just means they love you. What it means is that they're showing you submission and they see you as like the dominant one. Like they see you, they kind of see you as like the rooster and they're submitting to you. And you can take that any way you want. I mean, I think they're like, okay, we can mate if you want. I'm just letting you know we can. So it's kind of weird, but it's easy to pick them up. Like when they do that, then you can just pick them up and it's cute. So don't worry about it. Just that's what's up with that. All right. I am going to answer one more question, but I do need to make a short announcement before I do that. I just want to remind all of you that my book is available to order. I don't have a copy of it right in front of me. Usually I do have a copy of it and I didn't get it together. I don't have a copy. It is currently on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. I know it's at Tractor Supply. I will leave a link for you in the show notes. It's called Let's All Keep Chickens, the down-to-earth guide to natural practices for healthier birds and a happier world. And it is definitely one of the best things I've ever done. Okay, so check it out. And thank you so much to those who have already purchased my book. Okay, one last question. Okay, Christian, can you... Christian, can you repost that question? I didn't see it, Susie. I did not see it. I will look very quick, but if I can't find it, I'm going to have to move on to another question. Christian. Okay, there she is. All right, question from Christian. I am having the hardest time integrating a chick to my flock. I feel like I've tried everything. We have tried twice this week to let her go to the coop and sleep with everyone. So there is, when you say chick, my first question is, okay, how old is that chick? The younger a chicken is, the more vulnerable it will be when you're trying to integrate it into an established adult flock. And in fact, a young chicken can get killed by older chickens. So you have to be really careful, especially if it's a single chicken and it's a young chicken. That chicken is very vulnerable. So what I would do is wait, if it's a standard size chicken, I would wait until it's about 12 weeks to start the process of integration. And you can have her actually, let me rephrase that. I would wait until they're at least 12 weeks. If there were more than one chicken that you're integrating into an established flock. Since it's a single chicken, you may need to wait until it gets older. So even 16 weeks. And the reason for that is as they get older, they get more assertive. They get more able to let other chickens know, hey, don't bully me. Don't peck at me. They're just better able to handle the stress of that integration process and better able to defend themselves. So what I would do is just set up an area within your coop, or if it's a big coop, or within your chicken yard, where the new chicken can be, and that chicken can see everybody and the flock can see her, but they cannot get to each other. They can kind of perform their pecking order uh, rituals, but they can't hurt each other. So you've got her in an enclosed space with like some kind of type of wiring where that she cannot get out of and nothing can get in. Okay. And so she's safe and she can be around the other chickens, but she's not going to get hurt. And I would do that for a while. For a single chicken that is younger, I would do that for a while. It could take a month, okay? And that's just like, I just say that because there's the two things that are kind of against her. Her age, if she's younger, if she's a little baby chick, then that you can't do it. They need to get older. But even if she's like a young pullet, that is kind of against her. And then also her size is kind of against her. And also, sorry, I gotta get a drink. My throat is like, why are you talking so much? And then also, the fact that she's a lone chicken that you're integrating into an established flock is also against her. And it's hard for a lone chicken to integrate into a flock no matter what age. But if they're closer to being an adult, the closer to being an adult, the more, the easier it will be, the more assertive that they will be. Okay? I hope that helps. So, thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was great to be back. Great to be back. Thank you to my moderator and my co-producer, Kelsey Paulus, also known as the Chickenlandia Presidential Advisor. Thank you to Talking to Crows for editing this episode, and to Double M Ranch for their wonderful podcast art. If you enjoyed this podcast, remember to rate and review it, especially if you're on Apple. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review it. That really helps me. But the main thing that really helps me is when you remember that you are always welcome in Chickenlandia. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.